Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. The Xbox had a ton of racing games with some huge ones like Forza and Project Gotham Racing, which was a launch title for the system. Of the launch titles, 7 were racing games, making the Xbox a great platform for playing these types of games. One of those launch titles was Test Drive Off-Road Wide Open, an off-road racing game that was part of the long-running Test Drive series. I recently played through it, and I'd like to share my opinions on it along with some history. All footage was captured from an original Xbox, and I'd like to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into this one.
Checkpoint!
The Test Drive series dates all the way back to 1987. Releasing multiple ports at the time, it was a first-person driving game that was reviewed and sold well for the time. It would receive 2 sequels closely after that, with the third one in 1990. Though between the second and third one, the original developer Distinctive Software would drop out in favor of publisher Accolade to take over development. The results would be a bit different, and Test Drive wouldn't make a comeback till 1997 with Test Drive 4 on the PlayStation and PC. This game was a major success, along with the spin-off from the same year, Test Drive Off-Road. As the regular Test Drive series would get sequels, so would Off-Road. However, the main series at this point was primarily developed by Pitbull Syndicate, and no single developer would stay on for any of the off-road games, as they consistently switched off. This would lead us to the development of this game, which was the 4th installment in the Test Drive Off-Road series. This is where Angel Studios enters the story. Angel Studios had been around since the 1980s, working on computer animation for various films. However, in the 1990s, they broke into gaming. They do various sports games as well as work on a Disney ride, but in 1999 they made Midtown Madness, an open-world racing game where you could race in the streets of Chicago. Their sequel and following release Smuggler's Run would have the same open spirit as those games. This would make them a prime developer for the Test Drive Off-Road series, and Infogrames would publish it. Development for this entry would start sometime in 2000, and Infogrames director Chris Townsend would say that they were thrilled to work with Angel Studios and called them one of the top 10 developers in the world. They would also get the opportunity to fill this game with licensed cars and music, with Metallica getting a song in the game. Test Drive Off-Road Wide Open was first released for the PS2 in North America on August 21st, 2001. Then it would launch for the Xbox in North America on November 15th, 2001, which was the Xbox's launch day, and would see a European and Australian release in 2002. Personally, I don't have much history with this series. I've played them a bit here and there, but this one in particular, I have played the most. I played it for my launch titles video, which I did a while back. I was mixed on it overall, but I picked it up again to give it a full review today. And I played through it, so let me tell you how I felt about it, breaking it down, starting with the gameplay.
Checkpoint!
Test Drive Off-Road Wide Open from the start gives you quite a few modes to take on. First, you have a single race mode, which requires you to complete each course once with any car on the roster. You unlock more tracks as you win, and you unlock souped-up versions of each vehicle as well. This works similarly to the Stadium mode, which features racing exclusively on stadium tracks. You also have 4-player multiplayer and a free roam mode, allowing you to just look at all the courses openly with no time limit. This works for this game because it's only 3 maps and 1 secret one, and the races are different configurations of these open maps. On top of all this is the most substantial part of this game, which is the career mode. This gives you money to buy a car and take on different challenging division races. With more wins, you get more money, which allows you to purchase various vehicles in the game as well as upgrades. This setup is fun and rewarding, and it doesn't just hand out money, it actually forces you at one point to sell off your cars in order to buy better ones and move up the career ladder. I'm happy to see something like this here, and this is where I spent most of my time. Yet, even if the setup for races is fun, the actual racing gameplay has to be fun too, and I felt like there it was a bit more hit or miss. The driving in this game is arcadey. You accelerate with the right trigger, turn with the left stick, and brake with the left trigger. The controls all make sense, and a cool feature is that you can adjust in the air with the right stick, allowing you to land evenly on the ground to improve your acceleration after a jump. A neat feature, and one that becomes necessary because the physics in this game are not well handled. Turning is far too loose, and led to turning that required slight precision. Not only that, but jumping off anything, whether small or large, will cause your car to move more than it should, leading to a lot of headaches upon landing. Once you get going and you are accustomed to turning, you can become accustomed to the slight movements required. However, the jumping was something that never felt right to me. You can tell the physics don't stack up because even the AI struggles with jumps, and I found that sometimes they would ruin their whole runs by messing up on the bottom of hills. Though anything outside of that, the physics don't affect them as much. They feel incredibly strong and can push your car out of the way, something that you can't do to them. This often makes races with slower cars in the game almost impossible, and you're gonna have to have cars like the Hummer as soon as you possibly can. Often the AI will knock into the side of your car and flip you around, which would be fine if you could do the same back, but instead it feels like an unfair advantage. This game gets 10 times better with power cars over speed cars, and once I was using cars with more power, the game did feel better, but it's still not perfect, especially in the rainy levels. The slippery controls are cartoonish and unfun. Yet there aren't many of those, and when I got into the groove of this game, I do admit I had some fun. There is a fun racer here, but those physics kill some momentum. All of the cars have a mix of stats ranging from being faster to having a better time climbing hills. There didn't seem to be a perfect car, and you had to find what worked for you, which I appreciate that variety. Although it only has a few maps to go racing on, the variety of tracks in those maps and types of races keep it interesting. It's not just circuit races, you also get freeform races where you might need to go through certain flags in a specific order, or a bunch of flags going any way you choose. These were the best moments of this game because they effectively emphasized the open world concept and allowed for creativity. I had a great time planning out the best possible route with each. Being able to scrape time off with a nice shortcut is rewarding, and it brings that creative edge to the game. It's moments like these where the game shines in its design. Although the stadium mode does not quite reach those heights, these are essentially indoor circuit races and the maps are extremely simple. And those bad physics I was talking about with the regular mode feel amped up here, and this led to a game mode I barely wanted to touch. And I didn't spend a lot of time in free roam either, though I don't think free roam is bad. I like the idea of exploring these maps however you want, and if I were younger, I feel like this playground idea would have been right up my alley. Today, aside from looking at some collectibles, I don't think it has much to offer, but I do appreciate that it's here. Same with the multiplayer, which is always an added bonus to a game like this. We have a game here with some fun elements. The open design leans into being entertaining, and there's a good variety of racing modes. The races at times can be fun, but the physics also make it feel like you're hitting your head against the wall at times. Jumps with landings that completely ruin races, and AI that will run you off the road. Turns that don't feel great overall make an arcade racer that isn't entirely fun. I found myself enjoying it at times, but then I would quickly grow tired of it. Overall, I'd say the gameplay left me mixed.
Checkpoint!
As this game is a launch title, I do feel like the bar has to be set at some point in comparison to its contemporaries. Even though Dead or Alive 3 is a major outlier in that lineup, that game is gorgeous. That game aside, I don't think Test Drive brings any sort of wow factor to the console except in draw distances. These are wide open environments, and the game has the ability to display a good portion of it at one time, which helps create the overall open feeling of the game. The car models are also solid with good looking assets assets. Some of them are destructible, but the destruction is limited. Same with the dirt marks. Cars get dirty in this game, but not as much as you would hope for an off-road game, and I think the Xbox could have handled more at the time. The environments are clean in 480p with no haze, and it all looks solid. Yet the environments themselves don't offer much. Although the locations provide a good amount of water, hills, and mountains, I never found them to be particularly interesting. Some houses or fields might pop up, but for the most part, you'll see the same colors and textures, constant browns of the desert or greens of the woods. I never found enough variety to be here, and the bareness dampened any excitement of looking at anything. Sure, elements do pop up in the world, but it's never enough to spice up the game. I found the textures overall to be weak, and the environment to lack detail. It feels like it has a foot planted back in the previous generation. I wouldn't say it's awful looking, but it's not great either.
Checkpoint! Checkpoint!
As soon as you start the game, it throws its music right in your face, playing Fuel by Metallica, and it's loud, which keeps in tone with the rest of the soundtrack. It goes for a lot of hard rock and metal. Fear Factory and Cell Dweller pop up here, and I think it's a fun rock soundtrack. It gets you in a headbanging mood if you're into that, and I felt like the off-road nature of this game worked for those songs. As with most Xbox games, I would have preferred to have played my own music, but unfortunately this game does not support custom soundtracks. The other sounds aren't as great though. When you start the game, the music is really loud in the mix, and I think that's to cover the engine noise. Every car's engine noise is a loud drone, and it's the same pitch. It's plain, and though I could tune it out, it just feels a bit lazy. Same with the crashing noises that just felt stock and repeated. Nothing about the sound effects ever stood out to me. Here you get an announcer who announces every checkpoint you get into. It's the same voice and tone, and if you hit 3 checkpoints back to back, you're going to hear the same audio sample over and over. You do get used to it, but I would have liked something a little more interesting with the announcer. Other than the fun soundtrack, the audio is nothing special. Test Drive also came out on the PS2 a few months before this game, and let's see how both games compare to each other. The most notable feature is that the Xbox version includes Stadia mode. This feature was not included in the PS2 version of the game, but in my opinion, it is not a significant selling point for this game. Stadia mode is easily the worst game mode here, and it feels slapped together. Now, if you do really like this game though, that does mean the Xbox is the definitive version of this game in terms of content. In terms of sound, it's the same. I had 0 issues there in comparison, yet visually the stronger game is the Xbox version. It's a cleaner looking game where everything has smooth edges, and the PS2 version overall has a more jagged look, especially with the vehicles. I felt that the shadows and lighting on them looked better on the Xbox. Whereas the PS2 version has reflections, I don't think it blended together as well as it does on the Xbox. The environments on the PS2 had more pop in, and a lot of textures would be blurry until you got close to them. In the Xbox environment, textures loaded faster, and it didn't have a blurry effect. In reviews at the time, I saw that some thought the physics were updated for the Xbox version. Personally, from what I played, I felt no difference. They both have an odd physics system, and the AI uses it to its advantage. They both play the same, so gameplay is unchanged in my eyes, except for multiplayer, where the Xbox version supports 4-player versus the PS2, which only supports 2. The Xbox version is the clear winner in this comparison. Visually, it's sharper and comes with a whole new game mode, even if that game mode's not great. The PS2 version still plays the same, so I don't think you're missing out on a lot between the two, but the Xbox is the better choice if you want to pick between both of them. Test Drive Off-Road Wide Open has some merit. I had some fun with this one, with at times solid racing. It's nice to see a good amount of unlockables along with a decent career mode. Some issues arise, such as weak environments and a poor stadium mode, but the biggest problem is its physics. Physics so rough that even the AI couldn't handle it at times. It makes for a game that feels far too loose and out of control, making it difficult to enjoy at times. It's odd because sometimes it felt great, great, but other times you'll hit a race that is the least amount of fun. It leads to a mixed experience that is not one that I can recommend, especially when better racing games are on the Xbox. On my ranking list, which now features 123 Xbox games, Test Drive Off-Road Wide Open enters in at number 108. If I were to go back and replay a game, it would be Test Drive over All-Star Baseball, which didn't have a great selection of modes. I do think that out of the two driving games here though, Chase has a lot more of an entertainment factor. Where Test Drive is purely a racing game, the uniqueness of Chase holds it up as something more interesting. Test Drive received mixed reviews with a 64 average on Metacritic for the Xbox version. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, stating that it was fun but far too simple, and felt that the graphics didn't stand out. In a tiny review, Game Informer gave it a 6.5, saying it was a simple PS2 port and strived just to be average. Comparing it to 4x4 Evolution, which was another Xbox launch title, they said neither were worth playing. Official Xbox Magazine gave it a 5.6, calling the game boring, saying that the races gave nothing special. They did say the physics were improved from the PS2 version, but were still not good. Though it is an estimate, VG Charts estimates that the game only sold around 180,000 copies. The off-road series would end here after 4 games, although Test Drive still lingered around for a little while, and it even underwent a reinvention later on, which, funny enough, we ended up with a new Test Drive in 2024, though the off-road series has not seen a resurgence. The developer Angel Studios moved on to much better things. After working on Smuggler's Run and the first Midnight Club, Rockstar would acquire them, and they are now best known as Rockstar San Diego, the same team you might know best for making the Red Dead Redemption franchise, as well as Max Payne 3 and Midnight Club. Though you can't forget about Rockstar Games Presents Table Tennis, which they also worked on. Looking back in history, this was more of a blip and a long and great history of an awesome studio. It feels like a blip because in the countless recommendations and comments that I read on this channel, this one has barely come up. Looking at Reddit and some YouTube videos, I do see some nostalgic love, but I don't see this one get mentioned by many. On Backlog, 51 people have claimed to have played it, with an average rating of 2.7 out of 5. It has 6 reviews, and they do seem positive with only 1 negative one, so maybe the nostalgic love is still there. Let me know in the comments if you've ever played this one and how you felt about it, along with letting me know what I should cover next. Be sure to leave a like as it really helps me out in the algorithm, subscribe to keep up with more retro Xbox content, and be sure to check out my second channel, Camp Extras, if you want to see more gaming content from me. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support, you really help out the channel, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.